went to the bank today and did something to for my account to ask a question about accounts in Mexico and making sure that the cards could be used. And you have to inform now of what state or states you might be also using the card, because if you don't, the cards are now being flagged every time somebody makes a purchase out of state. And that's an interesting current cycle occurrence. It didn't used to be that way. And so the girl who was there, we went into her office and I asked about the Mexico, etc. And turns out she had an interest in the Oregon Trail, she says to me, because I mentioned something about my, well, then whether it was before or after the order of things, I don't know. So all I can say is that what I said was I have this friend and he's doing a hiking trail. He's California, and he's organizing a mission. And I didn't say all these extra words, but I said some of them, something like my visit to the 5-star Peso Hotel Hostel in a natural environment, pack trail, and the girl, what was really just fun was that the girl is very interested in hiking. She says, I want to do the Oregon Trail, and I'm interested in, I've done a lot of hiking. I really love to go up to the north of Georgia and hike up there. I go, you know, really? And so I gave, exchanged the information and contacts and told her about Universal Hikers. And I'm going, really? This is the person that's organizing my, helping me with the economics for this? Yeah, it's just like, okay, before I went to the bank, we were having breakfast, whatever, lunch, and watching the original, the ceremony, final Olympic final ceremony where they passed the torch. And they said it was sad that the torch was out for France. They were going to have to give it up, and because from Paris, and they're going to go to Los Angeles. So they had this. They do the ceremony, and the ceremony started with a bunch of Iceman dressed workers, and they were supposed to be ancient archaeologists studying the ancient field and in the Arctic. Really funny because they look like aliens, and the key figure came down from the ceiling was a golden, really looked more like an archangel, or a reptile almost. It was weird, the French have very aesthetic, unusual aesthetics and so forth, artistic senses, of course. And so this thing descends, or man in a suit, from the ceiling, and he comes down, and he's within all the workers, and they had the 5 rings, but one of the rings came down, or was down, for all of these ice workers to climb up as acrobatics, and they're doing these motions on the ring, the big ring, one of the 5 big rings. And so, okay, I'm thinking this really looks like that they're showing what happened a long time ago. The aliens came down and they took hold of one of the rings, acted as Lord of the Rings, which is really what that figure looked like, the golden figure, and that it represented the 5 bodies, and humanity as a whole, and the 5 bodies were, as just mentioned, infected, let's say, or projected, because it would be like the creation of mankind. They're, of course, talking about the archaeology of the past and how the rings formed, according to the announcers. Now, the Olympics are going to be go to Los Angeles in 2028. So the next part of this whole scenario, they had another character swooping down from the heavens, and Tom Cruise coming down, the Scientologist. The whole thing, you know, yeah, he comes down from the ceiling all the way down, just like in the, you know, Mission Impossible, and swoops down and lands, and then he high fives everybody in the camera, you know, going through a line of people like the guillotine, actually. But if you look at it that way, that's, you know, all the people on the sides of him, you know, like that. And, you know, go America. Representation of maybe, we'll say, the current affairs. So I'm looking at all this with this eye view, I'd say. It's my interpretation. And I'm thinking, okay, what else? Oh, and Tom Cruise then gets on it was a bicycle, really. It wasn't a motorcycle. It looked like a motorcycle, but it wasn't like a high speed. It was a bike, I think, so he could ride along the same path. And this says, this is the beginning of the torch, and it's gonna, and so I'm thinking, Tom Cruise got the torch, and he's going to bike across the ocean to Los Angeles. That's the symbology, right? Yeah. Really funny. And that's what's happening there with that so far. I didn't watch the end, but I mean, that's pretty much the scenario. I was just thinking that they played, you know, they had French music and some of the American music, a rap artist, a French rock band, pretty good. But they were all talking about, that song they did was about drinking at 10 minutes or 2 calls before closing at the bar. You know, whatever, and everybody's partying and dancing, so they're having a lot of fun, I guess. I just wrote a little short note in response to Ava here, a little bit that relates to all this. I don't know if I can read it. I don't have my glasses outside here. Anyway, so Val, I do have a question that I wrote, but I didn't put it in here in this message. I'll write it out to you for some information about phone calling from Mexico to the States, because it's very expensive to the phone system I have set up. I don't want to do it. So I need to get some info about that if I wanted to use it. So thank you, Val. Appreciate that. And one other thought I had is about, I mentioned this to you, that the two movies coming out this fall, one in September, is Beetlejuice is returning with Keaton, Michael Keaton as the star. And that goes back to the movie about 40 years ago now, I think. And it does relate to the star Beetlejuice, that is the head of the Orion Queen. And that star is at that position. And it's actually, we're ending a cycle with that where Beetlejuice is going to change into a different sign, the sign Cancer, which is astrology, it doesn't matter. But I'm pointing it out as a change. And I also know that it directly relates to the Republican candidate and a position he has that is ending as well, more directly, instead of this shift is happening over the next 50 years or 100 years. But particulars happen more like in real time, like right now, because everything's happening all at once. So all of this stuff that we're relating has already happened and or is part of what's happening now, and it's leading into the future. There's something else related with the solar energy field that is in the practical, real sense about solar panels. They just discovered something with solar energy that they're going to be able to use, and it's going to do away with solar panels. And it's 20% more efficient, and so forth and so on like that. It's just something I read that kind of relates, interrelated to how we use energy or how we share, and multiple applications of things speeding up in a way very interestingly. I would say, whether it's whatever it is, that's the subject. Thanks, Val. I'm off the ticket here.
Off the ticket.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Peter. Going back to Peter and the Oregon Trail, just to comment that, these were risk takers in the old days, as even today, hikers are risk takers in a way, because they're leaving everything behind, and it's kind of a gauge for you as a hiker to see what you're going to bring along. And I don't mean material-wise, I mean your emotional idea, mental kind of, baggage that you're bringing along on the trail. So it's a good gauge to see what you're holding on to in a way. Because when you're out there on the trail, then you don't have the comforts of civilization, so to speak. So it's a good method. I mean, even the doctors and the health professionals suggest you go out in the nature, and you get lost in nature, because you can see what you're holding on to and what you need to let go of. But these people in the old days, DUANE and I were watching a show there, and even in the old days, people were, they got lonely and missed their family back east, etc. The ones on the Oregon Trail, etc. And today, even more so, because civilization is so technologically, the focus is there. So when you go out in the nature, you lose all that, and you really see what you need to let go of, or what you can let go of, or are willing to let go of. And I follow some of these so-called famous hikers, the hikers that have racked up thousands of miles through their lifetime, and usually they end up as a legend sometimes, or they end up retiring and just tell good stories. But I haven't really found one that has any kind of, recognized anything beyond what they experienced through the hiking. So that's why we kind of started the Sunrise Trail here, to help people to recognize more. One thing is the environment, the other thing is, what we're presenting here with the isness, this reality. So it's an opportunity for people, especially the hiking group, to give them potential and the opportunity to see more through this getting into nature, walking through nature. But like I said, some of the older hikers, they've done it all, and I read their posts and their stories and books, and they're still, they still haven't so-called found anything more than what they experienced, which is a lot. Give them credit for that, but they still haven't found, more in terms of recognizing this reality that we're presenting. So yeah, you're welcome, Peter, to this 5-star resort that you're coming to on Wednesday, and we look forward to seeing you.
Just the coincidence that girl represented was just, just something. And she was like, yeah, I'm really interested, and I'm going to subscribe, and I'd like to, I told her I'd send her the links or whatever, I mean, it's definitely it's just, I'm completely, I was taken really by surprise, really, I mean, it was like, well, I wasn't taken by surprise, but I mean is, you sit there and you go, what's this, yeah. But I'm on a really, really good, really good cycle of orientation right now. So, sorry for yapping on, but let's say another thing that happened that relates somewhat is this tree and the fence builders that were here 2 days ago, and the tree limb is hanging down about 30 feet. The limb is hanging on the top of the tree. It's what they call, it's not a tree side, it's a tree, is it called, no, it's not a tree side. The guy working on the fence is an arborist, or he was working on the fence. And so that's why I talked to them. And he told me about this tree. You've got to cut down the limb, because if you don't, way up at the top, it's like a super feast for the bugs, and they'll kill the tree, actually. So we have concern with that. But the point is also that this tree limb has been through a couple of pretty high wind, including a hurricane almost winds last week. And this limb did not budge an inch. It's really lodged up there, and it's hanging down and farming, creating an awning, I guess you call it, which is a cover over the doorway so that it's shaded, which is really nice. But it needs to be cut. So the representation, though, was that I mentioned to the arborist about some of these other things. Both him and the two guys that were working there. One guy was smoking like a chimney, but he was very interested in the music part that I had mentioned about. And so the last day they were here, I pulled the guitar out and played solo for about 20 minutes and did all that, kind of a presentation. It was a little like surf music, and or a medley of different songs, like say Amazing Grace and Over the Rainbow or whatever, combined, and this one I called Telstar and Solar Flare. And so it's a whole piece of music that's constantly unfolding instead of it all being just fixed with a certain framework, da da da, beat beat beat, rhythm rhythm rhythm, you know, rap rap rap. And so I thought that that's a very interesting way of presenting, and it worked. I think that but what happened was funny. I thought I heard them say, someone say at the end, that's really good. And then that's the last I felt their thoughts directed at me at all, which means that, I thought they were going to come back and help me with something on the roof, little thing, but also he was going to come back and talk to me about the tree or whatever else that we had. And I haven't felt anything like they're going to come back, or I didn't give them contact and so forth, which is something that happens when you meet people. So it is a good idea to have some vehicle directly that will give them an opportunity to contact. As one of those things I've learned about, but I don't always get to it. In this case, it didn't get to it. I will share that the new guides are always presenting me these things, and a lot of times they'll say, you know, give them some information or get some information or whatever it is, like I did with the girl at the bank. You know, it's always that kind of standing on the moment. What is this? What to do here? What's a function of a presentation, you know, or a higher opportunity, and so forth and so on. As the entire language is all hooked up with this coordination of ideas and concepts and positions, that is, you know, stars or universals or local, globals, and worldly words. You know, no accident, these words are very close. That's one of the reasons I'm having trouble with communications, is because I will say these things, but the interpretation of the words that the others get is always something different, or something personal, and their objective or literal viewpoint, depending. Yeah, interesting, all way across.